My husband always said his ex-wife turned his kids against him. Then his teenage daughter showed up at our door asking why he stopped calling her back 2 years ago. I stood there frozen, the grocery bags cutting into my palms. Behind her, a younger boy sat in a beat-up Honda, watching us through the windshield. "Bryce," I called over my shoulder. "Your daughter's here." He appeared in the hallway, went pale, then recovered with that smile he uses when caught off guard. "Kelsey, wow, you're so tall." She didn't smile back. "Can I come in?" We sat in the living room. The boy stayed in the car. Kelsey was 15 now. When Bryce and I started dating 3 years ago, she'd been 12. "I tried calling you," she said, "for months. You never answered." Bryce leaned forward. "Honey, your mom changed your number. She blocked me from contacting you." "I didn't change my number," Kelsey interrupted. "Same one since 6th grade. Want me to prove it?" She held up her phone. Bryce's face did something complicated. "Your mother poisoned you against me," he said. "She didn't poison us, Dad. You just stopped showing up." The silence felt thick. "I drove 2 hours to see you," she continued, "because Trevor graduates next month and you're not even on the list for tickets." Trevor, the boy in the car, Bryce's son, 17 now. "Your mother probably didn't tell you," Bryce tried. "You're on the email list. The school sends everything to both parents." She showed him her phone. The forwarded email chain, sent to both parents, opened by her mom, never opened by Bryce. "Work's been crazy," he said. "You missed his entire junior year," Kelsey said flatly. "You missed my choir concerts. You didn't call on our birthdays. I sent cards. To your old address. The one we moved from 4 years ago. If you'd answered our calls, we could have told you where we live now." My chest felt tight. In 3 years together, Bryce had painted himself as the victim. His vindictive ex-wife. His alienated children. I'd believed him. "I need to use your bathroom," I said. Upstairs, I opened Bryce's laptop, still logged in. I typed Kelsey's name in the search bar. 47 unread emails from his daughter. The oldest from 2 years ago. "Hi, Dad, just checking in." The most recent from 3 days ago. "Dad, please. Trevor really wants you at graduation." I searched Trevor's name. 63 unread emails. Each subject line a small plea. There were voicemails, too. I clicked one from 8 months ago. Kelsey's voice. Younger and uncertain. "Dad, it's me again. I know you're mad at Mom, but can you please not be mad at us?" My hands shook. I scrolled further. Found the divorce proceedings. Joint custody, 50-50. His choice to step back, documented in email after email. Client non-responsive. Client missed mediation. When I returned downstairs, Bryce was mid-explanation. "I've been dealing with stress. Your mother never made it easy." Kelsey stood up. "That's what I thought you'd say." She walked toward the door, then stopped. "The woman you married," she said without turning around. "Ask her to show you the emails. The ones from me and Trevor. They're in your laptop." The door closed softly. Bryce and I sat in silence as the Honda pulled away. "She's been coached," he said. "Her mother probably." "I saw your emails," I said. His expression flickered. "What emails?" "All of them." We stared at each other across the coffee table. 3 years of our relationship hung in the air between us. Every story he'd told now suspect. My phone buzzed. A Facebook message from Kelsey Holloway. "I thought you should know the truth. There's more if you want to hear it." I looked at Bryce and realized I was sitting across from a stranger. The rest of that evening moved in slow motion. Bryce tried explaining, his words tumbling out in familiar patterns I'd heard 1,000 times before. The ex-wife who made everything difficult. The lawyers who didn't fight hard enough. The system designed to punish good fathers. But I kept seeing those emails. 47 from Kelsey, 63 from Trevor, each one unopened. "I'm going to bed," I said, cutting him off mid-sentence. "Wait, we need to talk about this." "I don't think we do." I locked the bedroom door, sat on the edge of our bed, the one we'd picked out together at that furniture store in Oakdale. I'd believed him when he said he couldn't afford to help with the down payment because child support was bleeding him dry. Now I wondered how much of that money actually went to his kids. My phone lit up. Another message from Kelsey. "I know this is a lot. You probably think I'm trying to cause problems. I'm not. I just thought you deserved to know what kind of person you married." I typed back. "Can we talk?" The dots appeared immediately. "Yes, please." We arranged to meet for coffee the next morning. I told Bryce I had a dentist appointment. Kelsey was already sitting in the corner booth when I arrived at the diner on Route 9. Trevor sat beside her, tall and quiet, with Bryce's dark eyes. Up close, I could see how much he looked like his father. Same sharp cheekbones. Same way of holding himself, like he was always ready to leave. "Thanks for meeting us," Kelsey said. "I know this is weird." I slid into the booth across from them. "It's okay. Trevor doesn't talk much," she continued, "but he wanted to be here." The boy nodded once. A waitress came by. I ordered coffee I didn't want, just to have something to do with my hands. "Where do you want me to start?" Kelsey asked. "Wherever you need to." She pulled out her phone, opened her photos. Started scrolling. Our 8th grade graduation. Dad promised he'd come. Mom saved him a seat. He texted 10 minutes after it ended saying traffic was bad. She swiped. Trevor's freshman homecoming. Dad said he'd pick him up after. Trevor waited outside the school for 2 hours before Mom came to get him. Another swipe. My 16th birthday. He promised to take me to dinner. I got dressed up, waited. He never showed. The photos kept coming. Each one a moment Bryce had missed, a promise he'd broken. Baseball games, school plays, doctor's appointments, family dinners. Always an excuse. Always someone else's fault. Mom never talked bad about him, Kelsey said. Even when he stopped paying child support, even when he'd promised to show up and then ghost us, she'd just say, "Your dad loves you. He's dealing with his own stuff." When did the child support stop? I asked. 2 years ago. Right when he started dating you, actually. My stomach turned. He'd told me his ex took him back to court, increased his payments to punishing levels. I'd felt sorry for him, even helped him budget. He told me he was paying $1,800 a month. Kelsey shook her head. He hasn't paid anything since July 3 years ago. Mom had to take on extra shifts. We almost lost the house. The waitress brought my coffee. I wrapped my hands around the cup, needing the heat. "Why now?" I asked. "Why come find me now?" Kelsey glanced at Trevor. "Because we're tired of him playing the victim. And because you seem nice. The few times we've seen you in town, you always smiled at us, even though you didn't know who we were." I remembered. A girl and a boy at the grocery store a few months back. They'd been staring. I'd assumed they were just typical teenagers being awkward. That was you. "We were trying to work up the courage to say something," Kelsey said. "But then Dad saw us and rushed you out of there. Said his ex-wife and her boyfriend's kids were stalking him. Her boyfriend's kids, not his own children." Trevor finally spoke. His voice was quiet, deeper than I expected. "I stopped trying to contact him after sophomore year. Figured if he wanted to be in my life, he knew where to find me." "What changed?" I asked. "Graduation," Kelsey said. "Mom sat us down last week. Asked if we wanted Dad on the ticket list. Trevor said no. But I don't know. I thought maybe he had a reason. Maybe there was something we didn't understand." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I drove all the way to your house thinking maybe he'd explain. Maybe there was a good reason he disappeared. But there wasn't. There never is with him." We sat in silence. The diner hummed around us. Other people's normal conversations, normal problems. "He used to be different," Kelsey said. "Before the divorce. He coached my soccer team, helped Trevor with homework. He'd do these silly voices when he read us bedtime stories." "What happened?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. "The divorce wasn't Mom's idea," Kelsey said. "It was his. He met someone at work, told Mom he'd fallen out of love, said he needed to find himself. The someone at work. I did the math. 4 years ago. Right before me. For the first year after, he kept his promises. Then the new relationship ended. He met someone else. Kept the promises for a few months. Then that ended too. Each time it fell apart, he'd pull away from us a little more. Like we reminded him of his failures." She showed me another photo. Bryce with his arm around a woman I didn't recognize. They were at a restaurant laughing. "That's girlfriend number 3. Lasted about 8 months. There've been 2 more since her. You're number 6 that we know of." I felt sick. "He has a pattern," Kelsey continued. "Meets someone new. Tells them his ex-wife is crazy. Says his kids hate him because she poisoned them. Plays the victim until the relationship gets serious. Then he finds reasons to pull away. Too much pressure. Too much drama. And the cycle starts over." Trevor pulled out his phone. Showed me a Reddit post from 3 years ago. The username was anonymous, but the story was unmistakable. A father asking for advice about an ex-wife who'd turned his kids against him. The comments were sympathetic. "Poor guy. The family court system is broken. Don't give up." "He uses the same story everywhere," Trevor said. "Online. With friends. With new girlfriends. Everyone believes him because who would lie about their own kids?" "Do you know why he does it?" I asked. Kelsey shrugged. "My therapist says some people need to be the victim. It's easier than admitting they're the problem. If he's the victim, he never has to change." I thought about the last 3 years. How Bryce always had an explanation when things went wrong. How it was always someone else's fault. His boss who didn't appreciate him. The friend who betrayed him. The mechanic who overcharged him. The ex-wife who ruined him. I'd believed every word. "What are you going to do?" Kelsey asked. "I don't know yet." She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't fair to you either. You didn't know." I squeezed back. "Thank you for telling me." We exchanged numbers. I promised to stay in touch. On my way out, Trevor stopped me. "He'll make you the villain now," he said. "When you leave, you'll be the crazy ex-girlfriend who believed his kids over him, just so you know." I nodded. I figured. Bryce was waiting when I got home, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. "Where were you?" he asked. "I met with Kelsey and Trevor." His jaw tightened. "They got to you already." "They didn't get to me. They told me the truth. Their version of the truth." "Did they tell you how their mother coached them? How she's been trying to destroy me for years?" I pulled out my phone, showed him the screenshots Kelsey had sent. Bank statements showing no child support payment, court documents showing he'd requested reduced custody, email chains where he'd canceled visits. "These are fake," he said immediately. "She must have photoshopped them." "Bryce, stop. You're taking their side?" "There are no sides. There's just what happened." He stood up, started pacing. "This is exactly what she wants. To turn everyone against me. First the kids, now you." I opened his laptop, pulled up the emails from Kelsey and Trevor. 47, 63, all unread. "You could have opened these," I said. "Any time in the last 2 years. You chose not to." I was protecting my mental health. Reading their manipulation would have— "They were kids," I interrupted. "They were kids asking their dad to call them back. Kids that their mother trained to guilt trip me. Listen to yourself. Listen to what you're saying." He sat back down, put his head in his hands. "You don't understand what it's like. The divorce destroyed me. She destroyed me. You destroyed yourself, I said quietly. You walked away from your own children and then blamed everyone else for it. That's not fair, isn't it? We sat in silence. I watched him struggle for another explanation, another excuse, another way to make himself the victim. I'm leaving, I said. Not tonight, but soon. I need time to figure things out. Because of them? Because of what they said? Because of the emails you didn't read? Because of the child support you didn't pay? Because everything you've told me for 3 years was a lie. It wasn't all a lie. No? What part was true? He couldn't answer. I moved into my sister's place 2 weeks later. Bryce called 17 times the first day. Left voicemails ranging from apologetic to angry to desperately sad. I listened to each one, heard the same patterns Kelsey had described. The victim narrative, the blame shifting, the refusal to take responsibility. I blocked his number after the 18th call. My friends were sympathetic at first. Then Bryce started telling his version. His crazy girlfriend who believed his manipulative ex-wife, who abandoned him when he needed support, who took the kid's side without hearing his. Some people believed him. I watched friendships dissolve as they chose sides. Mutual friends who'd known Bryce longer, who'd heard his story first. They saw me as the villain now. Trevor was right. This was the pattern. But Kelsey kept in touch. We'd meet for coffee every few weeks. She'd tell me stories about her and Trevor growing up. Showed me photos of who Bryce used to be before he disappeared into his own narrative. He wasn't always like this, she said once. I remember when he was a good dad. What happened? I think he got scared. When the divorce happened, he had to face the fact that he'd hurt people, that he'd made choices that had consequences. It was easier to create a story where he was the victim than to admit he'd been the villain. Do you think he'll ever change? She shook her head. He'd have to want to first. And wanting to change means admitting there's a problem. He's too invested in his story now. 6 months later, I was scrolling through social media when I saw Bryce's relationship status had changed. In a relationship with Deirdre Patterson, the profile photo showed them at a restaurant, smiling. I clicked through to her page. She was a year younger than me. Pretty. A kindergarten teacher. Her recent posts showed pictures of them together, captions about finally finding someone who understood her. I felt a wave of sadness. Not for me. For her. I sent Kelsey the link. She responded immediately. Oh no. Should we warn her? I typed. Kelsey called instead of texting back. We talked about it. Trevor thinks we should. But every time Dad starts dating someone new, we try to warn them. They never believe us. He's already told them we're the problem. What if she's different? She won't be. They never are. He's good at finding people who want to rescue him. I thought about that. How I'd wanted to rescue Bryce. How I'd seen his pain and wanted to fix it. How he'd let me try. Encouraged it even, until I started asking questions he didn't want to answer. I messaged Deirdre anyway. Kept it simple. If you ever want to talk about Bryce, I'm here. No judgment. She blocked me within the hour. Kelsey was right. The pattern would repeat. Trevor's graduation came in June. I wasn't invited, obviously, but Kelsey sent me photos afterward. Trevor in his cap and gown, beaming. Their mom, proud and crying. Extended family and friends. No Bryce. He didn't come, Kelsey texted. Didn't even send a card. I'm sorry, I wrote back. Trevor said it's okay. He said he graduated without a dad 4 years ago. This was just making it official. That night, I thought about all the moments Bryce had missed, all the promises he'd broken, all the excuses he'd made, and I thought about Trevor, who'd learned at 17 that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you will let you down, and you have to find a way to be okay with that. It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. A year after I left, I ran into Bryce at the grocery store in Oakdale. He was alone, looking tired. We made eye contact across the produce section. For a moment, I thought about walking away, avoiding the confrontation, but I didn't. How are you? I asked. Fine. You? Good. Awkward silence. I heard you're engaged, he said finally. I was. To a man I'd met through work. Someone kind who showed up when he said he would, who didn't have a trail of broken relationships and abandoned children behind him. Congratulations, Bryce said. He meant it, I think. Thank you. More silence. Do you ever talk to Kelsey? He asked. Sometimes. How is she? Good. She's applying to colleges, wants to study psychology. That's good. That's really good. He looked like he wanted to say more. Like maybe for just a moment he was seeing clearly, seeing what he'd lost and what he'd thrown away. But then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Deirdre. I should take this, he said. Okay. He walked away, already answering. Hey, babe. No, I'm almost done. My ex-girlfriend is here, the one I told you about. Yeah, it's awkward. I'll be home soon. I watched him go, watched him slip back into the story he'd created. The victim, the misunderstood father, the man who'd tried so hard but been defeated by circumstances beyond his control. Some people never change. They just find new audiences for the same performance. Trevor left for college that fall. State University, full scholarship. Kelsey sent me photos of move-in day. Trevor and his mom carrying boxes up to his dorm room, both of them smiling despite the obvious sadness of goodbye. No Bryce. He texted Trevor the night before, Kelsey told me later. Said he wanted to help move him in. Trevor said no thanks. Dad got mad. Said Trevor was being ungrateful after everything he'd done for him. Trevor asked him to name one thing he'd done in the last 3 years. Dad hung up. The audacity was almost impressive. I thought about reaching out to Bryce, trying one more time to make him see what he was doing. But I knew it wouldn't matter. He'd built a fortress of excuses and victim stories so high, the truth couldn't get through. Besides, it wasn't my responsibility to fix him. It never had been. 2 years after I left, Deirdre left too. I saw it on social media before I heard it through the gossip mill. Relationship status changed to single. Photos deleted. The usual digital purge of a relationship ended. Kelsey texted me. Deirdre reached out, asked if we could talk. We met at the same diner on Route 9. Deirdre sat in the corner booth, looking exactly like I'd felt 2 years earlier. Exhausted, confused, betrayed. I should have listened to you, she said. When you messaged me, I get why you didn't. She told her story. It was the same as mine. The same as girlfriend number 3's probably. The same pattern Bryce had been running for years. The initial romance. The victim narrative. The promises that fell apart under pressure. The excuses. The blame. He told me his ex-wife had brainwashed his kids. Deirdre said. I believed him. For 1.5 years, I believed every word. What changed? She smiled sadly. I got pregnant. Oh. Suddenly, he had to think about being a father again. And he couldn't handle it. Started pulling away. Missing doctor appointments. Working late. The same things his ex-wife probably dealt with. Did you have the baby? She shook her head. I miscarried at 12 weeks. He said he was devastated, but I could tell he was relieved. I'm sorry. After that, I started paying attention. Started seeing the patterns you and Kelsey tried to warn me about. The lies. The excuses. The way he'd make himself the victim in every situation. She pulled out her phone, showed me messages between her and Bryce. The same manipulation tactics. The same refusal to take responsibility. I left 3 weeks ago, she said. He's already telling people I was unstable. That the miscarriage made me crazy. That he tried to help but I pushed him away. Trevor called it, I said. He said you'd become the next villain in Bryce's story. Deirdre nodded. I've made peace with it. Let him tell whatever story he needs to tell. I know the truth. We exchanged numbers, added each other to the small group of women who'd escaped Bryce's orbit. A support system of survivors who understood what it was like to love someone who was incapable of seeing past his own narrative. 3 years after I left, I married the man I'd been engaged to. Small wedding, just family and close friends. Kelsey and Trevor both came. Their mom too, surprisingly. We'd become friends over the years, bonded by our shared experience of loving Bryce and learning to move on. During the reception, Trevor pulled me aside. Thanks for inviting us, he said. Of course. You're family now. He smiled. That's weird to hear. Good weird. How's school? Good. I'm thinking about law school after. Maybe family law. Help kids who are stuck in situations like we were. That would be amazing. He hesitated, then said, Dad got engaged again. Did you hear? I hadn't. Number 8. Her name's Francine. She's a nurse, has a daughter from a previous marriage. I felt that familiar sadness. Not for me, for Francine, for her daughter, for the inevitable moment when Bryce's pattern would repeat and they'd become the next villains in his story. Are you going to warn her? I asked. Already tried. She blocked all of us. Dad told her we're unstable, that we've been harassing his girlfriends for years because we can't let go of the past. Of course he did. Trevor shrugged. At this point, all we can do is be here when she figures it out. If she figures it out. He was right. Some people had to learn the hard way. Some people never learned at all. 5 years after I left, I had my first child. A daughter. My husband and I named her Violet. Kelsey came to visit us in the hospital, brought flowers and a stuffed elephant, held Violet with the careful reverence of someone who understood how precious new life was. She's perfect, Kelsey said. Thank you. You're going to be a great mom. I hope so. Kelsey looked at me. You will be. You know what not to do. I thought about that later, after everyone had left and it was just me, my husband, and Violet. How the best thing Bryce had ever taught me was what kind of parent I didn't want to be. I thought about all the promises he'd broken, all the times he'd chosen his own comfort over his children's needs, all the excuses he'd made to avoid facing his own failures. And I made a promise to Violet. A promise I intended to keep. I would show up. Always. Even when it was hard. Even when I was tired. Even when showing up meant facing uncomfortable truths about myself. I would take responsibility for my mistakes instead of blaming others. I would love her unconditionally, without making her responsible for my emotional needs. I would be present. Not just physically, but emotionally. I would be the parent Bryce could have been if he'd chosen his children over his own victim narrative. 7 years after I left, Kelsey got married. Big wedding in Vermont. Mountains and autumn leaves. Trevor walked her down the aisle since their mom wanted to sit with the guests. Bryce wasn't invited. During the reception, Kelsey gave a speech thanking the people who'd supported her. Her mom, who'd worked 2 jobs to give them a stable life. Trevor, who'd been her best friend and protector. Her therapist, who'd helped her process the abandonment. Me and Deirdre and the other women from the group, who'd shown her that she wasn't responsible for her father's choices. She didn't mention Bryce once. Later, I found her alone on the balcony, looking out at the mountains. Beautiful wedding, I said. Thanks for coming. Wouldn't have missed it. We stood in comfortable silence. Do you ever think about him? I asked. Sometimes. Usually when I'm processing something in therapy, or when I see fathers playing with their daughters and I remember what I lost. Do you miss him? She thought about it. I miss who he used to be, before the divorce, before he chose his narrative over his children. But that person's gone, has been for a long time. Have you heard from him? She shook her head. He sent a card to my old address last Christmas. Didn't include a return address or a phone number, just a generic message about hoping I was well. That's something, I guess. Is it, though? A card sent to an address he knows I don't live at anymore? It's performative. He can tell himself he tried without actually having to face the consequences of reconnecting. You're probably right. She turned to me. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it? Meeting him? Dating him? The 3 years you spent believing his story? I thought about it. Honestly, no. It was hard. It hurt. But I learned what I don't want. And I gained you and Trevor and this weird extended family of women who've survived the same thing? She smiled. Silver linings. Always. 10 years after I left, Bryce had a heart attack. Not fatal, but serious enough to require surgery and lifestyle changes. Kelsey found out through a mutual friend of their mom's. Should we visit him? She asked over the phone. Do you want to? Silence. I don't know, she finally said. He's still my dad, even after everything. Then visit him. Will you come with me? Of course. We went to the hospital 2 days later. Bryce was in a private room connected to monitors and IVs. He looked older than I remembered. Grayer, thinner. The heart attack had aged him a decade. Kelsey, he said when he saw her. You came. Hi, Dad. She sat in the chair beside his bed. I stood near the door, ready to leave if needed. Trevor? Bryce asked hopefully. He's overseas. Teaching English in Thailand. I can call him if you want. No, that's okay. Awkward silence. How are you feeling? Kelsey asked. Like I got hit by a truck. But the doctors say I'll be okay if I make some changes. That's good. More silence. I've been thinking, Bryce said, about a lot of things. This whole experience. It's made me realize how much time I've wasted. How many mistakes I've made. Kelsey didn't respond. Just waited. I want to make things right with you and Trevor. I know I haven't been the father you deserved. I want to change that. I'd heard these words before. Different context, same sentiment. The promise to change, made only when faced with consequences. Kelsey heard it too. I could see it in her face. Dad, she said gently, we've had this conversation before. After every girlfriend leaves, after every missed birthday or graduation, you promise to change and then nothing changes. This is different. Is it? The heart attack. It made me see things clearly. What things? That I've been running from responsibility my whole life. That I've hurt people who loved me. That I've wasted years blaming everyone else for my own choices. Progress, maybe. Or just another performance. What are you going to do about it? Kelsey asked. I'm going to therapy. Real therapy this time. Not just a few sessions to check a box. I'm going to work on myself. Face the things I've been avoiding. That's good, Dad. I hope you do. And I want to rebuild our relationship. Slowly. On your terms. Kelsey looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a card. Wrote something on it. Handed it to Bryce. This is my therapist's number. She specializes in family trauma and reconciliation. If you're serious about this, call her. Do the work. Not for me or Trevor. For yourself. Bryce took the card, stared at it. And Dad, if you do the work, really do it, and you want to try to have a relationship with us again, we can talk about it. But I need to see sustained change. Not promises, not cards sent to old addresses. Real, consistent change over months. Years, maybe. I understand. I hope you do. We left shortly after. In the car, Kelsey was quiet. Do you think he'll actually do it? She asked finally. I don't know. Maybe. But that's not your responsibility. I know. But part of me still hopes. That's because you're a good person. You're allowed to hope. Just protect yourself while you do. Bryce did start therapy. Kelsey found out through the same friend who'd told her about the heart attack. He was going twice a week. Actually doing the work, supposedly. Months passed. No contact. No pressure. Just the knowledge that somewhere, maybe, Bryce was finally facing the things he'd spent decades avoiding. Then, 8 months after the heart attack, Kelsey got a letter. Actual letter, not email. Sent to her correct address. It was long. Pages and pages of Bryce unpacking his behavior. Acknowledging specific moments where he'd failed. Not making excuses. Not blaming the ex-wife or the courts or the circumstances. Just taking responsibility. He listed every birthday he'd missed. Every broken promise. Every lie he'd told. Every time he'd chosen his own comfort over their needs. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Didn't ask for a relationship. Just said he was sorry and that he understood if they never wanted to see him again. Kelsey called me after reading it. I don't know what to do with this, she said. What do you want to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to believe he's changed. Part of me remembers all the times he's promised to change before. Both parts are valid. She was quiet for a moment. I think I want to meet with him, with my therapist there. See if this is real or just another performance. That sounds smart. Will you be mad if I give him another chance? Kelsey, he's your dad. I'll support whatever you decide. Even if he hurts me again? Even then. But I hope he doesn't. The meeting happened 3 weeks later. Kelsey, Bryce, and her therapist in a neutral office. Trevor joined by video call from Thailand. Kelsey told me about it afterward. How Bryce had cried. How he'd answered their questions without deflecting. How he'd acknowledged the specific ways he'd damaged them. How he'd said he understood they might never forgive him. But he wanted them to know he was finally seeing clearly. How was it? I asked. Weird? Uncomfortable? But maybe real? It's hard to tell. What did Trevor think? He's skeptical. Says he needs to see sustained change before he'll believe it. Smart kid. Yeah. Over the next year, Bryce proved himself. Slowly. Carefully. He sent emails asking about their lives without making himself the focus. He remembered birthdays and sent appropriate gifts to their correct addresses. He attended Kelsey's graduate school hoops ceremony, sitting in the back without making a scene. He video called Trevor every other week, just to talk, without expecting anything in return. He was doing the work. Kelsey kept me updated, told me about the small moments of progress. The times Bryce apologized without being prompted. The times he took responsibility instead of making excuses. The times he acknowledged their pain without trying to minimize it. It's strange, she said during one of our coffee dates. Having a dad again. A real dad. Not just the idea of one. How does it feel? Good. Scary. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's understandable. My therapist says I need to let go of waiting for him to fail. That I can protect myself and still give him a chance. She's right. Kelsey stirred her coffee. Thank you, by the way. For what? For being here. For warning me about his pattern. For introducing me to the support group. For showing me that I didn't have to accept his victim story. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe. But it helped having someone who'd been through it. Who understood. 15 years after I left, I attended a dinner party at Kelsey's house. Her husband was there. Trevor, home from Thailand with a girlfriend. Their mom and stepdad. Deirdre and her new husband. My husband and our 2 daughters. And Bryce. It was the first time I'd seen him in a social setting since the breakup. He looked different. Calmer. Less defensive. He sat at the end of the table participating in conversations without dominating them. Laughing at jokes without making himself the punchline. Just existing, without needing to be the victim or the hero. During dinner, Violet asked him about his work. He answered simply, without the elaborate stories he used to tell. When she asked about his kids, he glanced at Kelsey and Trevor. I have 2 incredible kids, he said. Took me too long to appreciate them, but I'm grateful they gave me another chance. Kelsey smiled at him, small, but genuine. Later, while cleaning up, Bryce approached me in the kitchen. I owe you an apology, he said. Okay, for lying to you, for wasting 3 years of your life, for making you the villain when you left, for all of it. I appreciated this specificity. Thank you, I said. You deserved better. I know that now. I did. But I'm okay. I found better. I'm glad. He started to leave, then turned back. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you stay friends with Kelsey and Trevor? After everything? It would have been easier to just walk away from all of us. I thought about it. Because they deserved to have people who showed up for them. Because they weren't responsible for your choices. Because they were good kids who'd been hurt by someone who should have protected them. He nodded slowly. Thank you for that. For seeing them as people separate from me. Of course. 20 years after I left, Trevor got married. His wedding was smaller than Kelsey's, intimate and personal. Bryce was there, sitting with their mom and stepdad like it was the most natural thing in the world. During his speech, Trevor thanked the people who'd shaped him. His mom, who'd sacrificed everything to give him and Kelsey stability. Kelsey, his best friend and protector. The teachers and mentors who'd believed in him. His friends who'd become his chosen family. And his dad, who'd taught him the hardest lesson of all. That people can change if they're willing to do the work. Bryce cried during that speech. Quiet tears he didn't try to hide. I watched from my table and thought about the long road from that day Kelsey showed up at my door. How much had changed. How much had been lost and found and rebuilt. Later, I stepped outside for air. Found Bryce on the patio, alone. Hell of a journey, he said when he saw me. Yeah, I almost destroyed them. My kids. If they hadn't been so strong, so resilient, they're remarkable. They are. Despite me, not because of me. You're doing better now. That counts for something. Does it, though? Can you really make up for years of abandonment? I don't know if it's about making up for it. Maybe it's about being better going forward. Being the person they deserved all along. He was quiet for a long time. I was so scared, he finally said. After the divorce. Scared of failing, scared of not being enough. So I created this story, where I was the victim, where nothing was my fault. It was easier than facing what I'd done. What changed? The heart attack, therapy, Kelsey handing me her therapist's card and telling me to do the work for myself, not for her. Realizing that my kids had grown into amazing adults without me, and if I wanted to know them, I had to become someone worth knowing. Sounds like you did the work. I'm still doing it. Every day. We stood in comfortable silence. Inside, I could hear music and laughter. Trevor and his wife dancing, Kelsey and her husband joining them, life moving forward. Can I ask you something? Bryce said. Sure. Do you forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know if forgiveness is the right word. I've made peace with what happened. I've moved on. I'm grateful for what I learned. But forgive? That feels too simple for something so complicated. That's fair. I think you need to forgive yourself more than you need my forgiveness. My therapist says the same thing. She's probably right. He smiled. Probably. 25 years after I left, Kelsey had her first child, a son. She named him after Trevor's middle name, after their grandfather on their mom's side. Bryce met his grandson in the hospital, held him with shaking hands and tears streaming down his face. I won't make the same mistakes, he whispered to the baby. I promise. Kelsey watched him carefully. I know, Dad. That's why you're here. Later, after Bryce had left, Kelsey and I sat together in her hospital room. The baby slept in her arms, perfect and small. Are you scared? I asked, terrified. What if I mess him up? What if I repeat the same patterns? You won't. How do you know? Because you're aware of them. Because you've done the work. Because you know what not to do. She kissed her son's forehead. I want him to always know he's loved. That he's enough. That he doesn't have to earn my affection or forgiveness. Then tell him that. Every day. Show him through your actions. What if I fail sometimes? You will. Everyone does. But you'll show up. You'll take responsibility. You'll apologize when you're wrong. That's what breaks the cycle. She looked at me. You know, if you hadn't left Bryce, if you hadn't seen through his lies, I might never have confronted him. I might have spent my whole life believing his version of events. I don't know about that. You're pretty smart. Maybe. But you made it easier. You showed me I wasn't crazy for questioning the narrative. I'm glad. We sat in quiet contentment. Outside, the sun was setting. Inside, new life breathed softly. The cycle broken. The pattern interrupted. 30 years after I left, I attended Bryce's funeral. He died peacefully, surrounded by family, Kelsey and Trevor on either side. His third wife, the one he'd married after years of therapy and growth. Grandchildren in the waiting room. The funeral was well attended. People from his work, his AA group, his therapy group. Friends he'd made in his later years. People who knew the Bryce he'd become, not the Bryce he'd been. Trevor gave the eulogy, talked about his father's journey, the mistakes he'd made, the work he'd done to change, the relationship they'd rebuilt over 15 years of consistent effort. He wasn't perfect, Trevor said. He'd be the first to tell you that. But he showed up. For the last 15 years of his life, he showed up. And that made all the difference. At the reception, I found myself talking to Francine, girlfriend number 8, the one who'd stayed, who'd seen Bryce through his transformation. You knew him before, she said. When he was different? I did. What was he like? Scared. Defensive. Unable to face his own failures. That must have been hard. For everyone involved. She smiled sadly. He talked about you sometimes. About how you seeing those emails was the beginning of the end. How Kelsey confronting him started the dominoes falling. I didn't do anything special. Just saw the truth. Sometimes that's the most special thing. Seeing clearly when everyone else is caught up in the story. 35 years after I left, Kelsey and I sat on her porch watching her son play with my grandchildren. Gray-haired and content. Survivors of different battles but friends through it all. Do you ever think about it? She asked. That day I showed up at your door? Sometimes. Do you regret answering? Never. Even with everything that happened after? Especially because of everything that happened after. She smiled. Me too. We watched the children play. A new generation. Unburdened by the patterns that had shaped us. Free to make their own mistakes. Learn their own lessons. You know what's funny? Kelsey said. Dad spent so many years playing the victim, convinced everyone was against him. And in the end, the people who loved him most were the ones he'd hurt. We were the ones who showed up for him when he finally decided to change. That's grace, I said. Or stupidity. Or both. We laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from surviving something hard and coming out the other side intact. Thank you, Kelsey said suddenly. For what? For that day. For showing me those emails. For being honest when everyone else was willing to pretend. For staying in my life even when you had every reason to leave. You're my family. That was never in question. She reached over and squeezed my hand. The afternoon sun warmed our faces. Inside, we could hear Trevor on a video call with his daughter, who was studying abroad. Life continuing, patterns broken, cycles ended. We did good, didn't we? Kelsey said. Yeah, we did good. And we sat there, two women who'd loved the same broken man in different ways, watching the future play out in front of us. Proof that confronting hard truths, doing difficult work, and choosing growth over comfort could change everything. The Honda that brought Kelsey to my door all those years ago was long gone, sold for scrap a decade earlier. But the courage it took for her to drive it there, to ask the hard questions, to demand truth over comfortable lies, that remained. That courage had changed all of us. And 35 years later, as the sun set over a porch filled with family and laughter and hard-won peace, I was grateful for that scared 15-year-old girl who'd shown up asking why her father stopped calling. She'd saved us all.